Oh, it's ready. Welcome to Design Thinking Phase 2 Interpretation. In the interpretation phase of design thinking, we are taking all the information that we have gathered from the discovery phase and making sense of that information. So here we have lots of information and we want to know, how do we interpret it? How do we take the information that we've gained from the end user and that we've gleaned from the experts and make sense of that information? And it's transforming your stories, your observations, your field visits and research, and simple conversations into meaningful insight and actionable opportunities for design. So you've done a lot of research. Now we've got to make meaning of it so that we can do something with it. So that means we have to sort through the data, we have to analyze it, and then condense the information until we found emerging themes. What does the information actually tell us? What themes emerge from all of this data? And then we should also end with a compelling point of view that gives us direction for ideation.
So there are three main parts of the interpretation phase. The first one is telling your story. Whether you interviewed or observed an end user or an expert, telling and comparing stories with your group during collaboration. The second portion is searching for meaning, taking all of your data and looking for overall themes and similarities and possible differences. The third one is making your insights into action, so framing your opportunities and creating a how, what might we question.
Okay, and so as we tell our stories, we want to really capture the essence of the information, and we want to understand the end users from an empathetic standpoint so that we really bring our empathy into what the end user experiences so that we understand and can somewhat feel what the end user experiences and the needs of the end user. So we want to capture the learning and then share this information with all of our team members so that we can collectively and collaboratively decide our next steps and collectively understand what has happened. So once we share the information, we will also share inspiring stories from our personal learnings, research about the end users, and from the experts.
A lot of times we need to look deeper and see what this person's body language is like when we are interviewing them or observing them. Possible questions could be, what is this person's motivation? What is their driver? Do they have any barriers to overcome and possible frustrations? Actively listen and make sure we're watching for the entire story. The second portion is part 2, searching for meaning. So while we're together, and whether you're doing this virtually or together collaboratively, you're looking at all the information gathered from the end users as well as the experts and individual characteristics, and then seeing if they can find some cohesion together in an overall theme. We're making sense of all these findings together to see if there is a overall foundation for your challenge. What is the main driver of this challenge, and what is the need or the barrier that your end user needs to overcome? What are some of the headlines? So defining insights. What is something that you could put as, the major subtitle? What is standing out in all of this research?
Okay. So once we've analyzed and defined the insights, now we want to move on to part 3, which is, again, interpretation, coming back to our themes, our emerging themes. And once we've done that, we want to go back to our original DT question. Is that the question that we really want to ask? or do we want to refine that question based on the information and the interpretation of that information? So once we do that, we also create a visual reminder of our DT question, because that's going to guide the remainder of our work as we move through the DT process. Finally, we want to make insights actionable. So we need to have actionable insights as we move into the ideation phase, because we actually want to do something to solve the issues facing our end users.
To create those visual reminders, at the bottom of this item, you'll find 3 possible websites that you may use online to save or to use live when you guys are creating your overarching themes and organizing your data.
Okay, so interpretations. This one we've talked about a little bit, but here you might want to put a visual where you define the problem. We just talked about defining that problem. So redefine the problem. You might want to put that in as your visual, and then we also might want to identify the key findings here. We've already identified those, but we want to write the key findings because that will help us as we move through ideation. So we've identified those. We want to put this information now in a visual. You have the visual question, and we want to have the visual key findings listed here to guide you through an ideation.
And
created using Powtoon.
Last but not least, we have our point of view that we need to adopt. So again, driving back into empathy, what does the end user need because of what insight that we found? So how might we give this end user this need because of what you've observed overall about their environment or their experience? IDEO suggests that we select 3 to 5 major questions or 3 to 5 major needs throughout our ideation phase.
Okay, and I think, Sandra, you've in the additional resources, you also have this portion of the phase, right, for them to review.
In the design for our Design Thinking Educators Toolkit, as well as the PDF if you would like to take notes.
So please read through this phase of the design thinking process in your toolkit.